Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to a hastily organised unboxing video of the latest dive watch release by Seiko. I got an email last night saying that these were now in stock and available for purchase. I jumped on my scooter this morning, scooted into the city to pick it up, scooted back out, and now we get to open the box and peel off the stickers together. But what, as they say, is in the box? Well, it's the new Seiko SRPL11K, a watch that in certain circles anyway is being referred to as the Shog-Urai because it combines elements of the old models Seiko Shogun and Seiko Samurai. I'm not sure about that one, to be honest. It kind of reminds me of that scene from Mean Girls.
Look how red she is. You love him, and he totally complimented you. That is so fetch.
Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Indeed, Gretchen, Shog-Urai, like fetch, is just not gonna happen. At least not in this house anyway. Can we call it the baby samurai or the mini samurai instead, please? There's plenty of precedent for doing exactly that, is there not? Anyway, there's also a clue there because the dimensions of this watch are considerably smaller than either of the two watches that combined to make it sobriquet. As such, I am rather excited to see it and get it on wrist because I always felt the old Samurai was just a little bit too big for me. Let's flip the camera and do just that. Alright, I am freshly off the scooter. My hands are a little bit cold. It's not all that warm in Sydney today, but I'm back in the studio with the watch. I cannot bring myself to call this one the Shog-Urai. Surely somebody could come up with something better than that. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this intended nickname. Is it okay with you, or can you perhaps come up with something better? Clearly Seiko themselves are incapable of coming up with anything new these days. Perhaps these Seiko fans will come up with a new name for what's inside the box. Before I even get inside the box though, let's talk price. And that is the official Seiko price, 950 Aussie dollars RRP. We all know that Seiko are just squeezing their prices up and up and up, but what for? I bought this one today from an Aussie online retailer whose name I cannot say, but everybody in Australia knows exactly who I mean. I paid $600 for it, so already people are taking a third off the RRP. Who's actually paying RRP, and therefore why? What's the point of artificially inflating the RRP when all of your retailers are going to discount heavily? Alright, hang on, let me get into the box. Well, I did say my hands were a bit cold, but even then, that took me far longer than it should have. Okay, they look like they've slightly changed this one, a kind of marbled effect to the box. Haven't seen one of these before. Hey, for $950, we get a marble effect box these days. Alright, enough of that. What's inside? Ooh, we get a polishing cloth as well. Hey, that's got to be worth at least 20 cents. And there it is. Of course, I went for the red one. You don't see a lot of red watches generally. You don't see a lot of red Seikos specifically. There it is, the SRPL11K1 featuring a 4R35 for 950 Aussie dollars. Anyway, I didn't pay that. I paid 600. Let's peel off some stickers. My goodness, what's going on today? That also took far longer than it should have. Movement is running. We've got a date down there at 4:30, a fairly obvious thing to note. Plus we have a diver's extension on the bracelet here as well. I think that is a carryover clasp from the old Samurai / Turtle range, perhaps just slightly smaller. Okay, let me size this one up. Pin and collar system, I presume. Yeah, let's get it sized, let's get it set, and let's return momentarily. Ah, Seiko's pin and collar system. Never a pleasure, always a chore, but here we are back. I had to remove 3 links, so you should be okay if you're up to an 8-inch wrist with one of these guys. But then again, if you have an 8-inch wrist, perhaps you'd be better served by buying the original Samurai in the first place. So, Shog-Urai, Shogun Samurai, let's bring in those 2 pictures that I flashed up in the intro. Let's see which of those 2 older model Seikos this one gets the majority of its DNA from. What do you think? I think this watch has far, far more Samurai than Shogun. The crown guards, it's got the kind of signature crossed-hatched knurled crown straight off the Samurai.
bezel insert, again far more samurai than Shogun. Maybe the lugs, they're a little bit softer, not quite as angled as the original Samurai, but certainly not as rounded as they are on the Shogun. But what about the dial, the hands, the indices? I don't really think they look much like either of those other two watches. Look at all those kind of shark's teeth pointing in towards the pinion. What does that remind you of? Yes, that reminds you of a Gen 2 monster. What do we think of the dial and hands? Okay, more on that later. Let's do dimensions. Now, this new model is being touted as a smaller, more compact, more wearable version of the old Samurai, and the diameter dimension certainly reflects that. 41.7, noticeably smaller. 12.4mm thick though. That's actually pretty good considering the movement powering this watch. I measure it at just under 49mm, 48.8mm lug-to-lug drilled lugs, as you can see. So not the super compact lug-to-lug that you get on some of Seiko's cushion case models. For example, 20mm lug width, as sized for me with those 3 links removed, 158 grams, spot on for this size of dive watch. 200 meters of water resistance. It is a Divers apostrophe automatic, so ISO rated. Screw down crown, of course. That, unfortunately, though, is still Seiko's Hardlex mineral crystal, 950 Aussie RRP. And as discussed, it's a Seiko in-house caliber 4R35 in the back. And I left one more treat for us, the classic blue Caseback sticker, Movement Malaysia, cased in China. It's not a J model, so you're not getting made in Japan anywhere near this one. Perhaps they will do a J model version of this one in the future. There we go with the Seiko Wave. Always a rather attractive Caseback sticker though. X for the Prospect X because of course it belongs to the Prospects range. Seiko always do a really good job on case finish though. Lovely fine brushing on the side case there and on those upper lug surfaces. Perhaps you saw from the Caseback shot as well. Nice high polish undercut, meaning it's going to wear very comfortably. I've had it on wrist a little bit already. It is nice and comfortable. And we have a knurled bezel to match the knurled crown on this one. Again, kind of angled down there. Nice side profile from this one too. Nice crown guards. Yeah, the case is actually very, very attractive. And those crowns are super, super easy to grip. Now the bezel, I wouldn't describe the bezel as super easy to grip. It's not too bad, but if you do have diving gloves on or so, because it's fairly slim, you might not get a great grip. Reasonable action though, kind of standard Seiko. They've all got that kind of ratchety, notchety feel to them. 120 unidirectional aluminium insert, just with a lume pip though, so all those numerals and markers are not loomed. I will show you the lume in just a second. So an all-brush watch head needs an all-brush bracelet, and it gets one. But it also gets male end links you see there. However, they point down so sharply and so quickly, they don't really extend the effective lug-to-lug out beyond the watch case itself. Look, if you want a Seiko with a super short lug-to-lug, if you've got small wrists, get a mini turtle. Get one from Japan. They are awesome. 3-link oyster style, though we've seen this before with Seiko, those two outer links are actually part of the same link. They are connected by a bridge, as you can see there. Pin and collar system, as discussed, and you've probably seen this Seiko clasp on other models in the past, including the aforementioned Mini Turtle. Look, they're kind of cheap, but they're actually quite effective and quite comfortable on wrist. Seiko stamped, fold over, everything is just pressed, double trigger, pressed upper, pressed lower. At least you get 4 holes of micro adjust. That is just about enough given the gap between these two links, and as mentioned much earlier on, you also get a little diver's extension. Just flick that out there, pop it open. Yeah, if you actually do want to get this one properly wet, wrap it over a wetsuit at the weekend, you can do that no problem at all. It's not that attractive, but it is effective. Alright, dial and hands, before we get into any macro close-up footage of the watch itself, what do you think of the colour? Only 3 models of this are available at the moment. There's a kind of black one in stainless steel, there's a kind of stealthy all black one, and there's this red one. I, of course, as you see, went for the red one. It's not a particularly appealing shade of red though. No sunburst on the dial, very muted, very red wine. In fact, it's pretty close to the red wine King Seiko that I bought earlier on last year. Although without the sunburst, yeah, definitely not all that bright or vibrant. Perhaps Seiko are just leaving themselves a bit of room to launch some more colourful, no doubt limited special editions, priced accordingly in the future. Let's see. Indices are all applied today rather than embossed. We've got that kind of split V up at the 12 o'clock. Little arrowheads again segmented at the 3, the 6 and 9, and sharp batons everywhere else. Date complication down there at the 4:30 today. Not colour matched, but it is black with white contrasting Arabic numerals. Not too bad to see, but it is a fairly small porthole. Seiko logo is just printed on, Prospex X, automatic, and then divers with an apostrophe, 200 meters, the all-important apostrophe. The handset is all flat, and in the case of the hour and the minute hand, all brushed. The second hand, though, is high polished, and all three of those hands feature lume. Seiko's Lumi Bright usually scores a solid 7 out of 10. Never spectacular, but never underwhelming or disappointing. And when I turn the speed up on this one, I think you'll agree when we get to the end of the 20-minute test that the lume on this watch is worth 7 out of 10. And that's it on wrist. It wears very, very nicely indeed. I must say I have owned a couple of larger model Samurais, but they were always a little bit too big for me, particularly because they had 22mm lug width as well. This one coming in just under 50, no problem at all on my wrist. Nice bit of downturn from those lugs as well. Nicely balanced, and it is a long clasp, which does actually help with keeping it stable on your wrist. And the legibility is outstanding. There you go, that's the overhead arm's length shot, and yeah, legibility is fantastic. And you know what, it's going to be exactly the same for all three of the colorways they have launched, because silver hands, all that loomed area, surface area, against a dark dial. In this case, the red one is the lightest of the three dials, so yeah, no problems at all with legibility. Just what you'd expect from a proper dive watch designed for proper diving. But what do you actually think of it? Is it floating your boat? Do you actually like it? There has been very, very little buzz about the launch of these new small Samurai, Shog-Urai, whatever you want to call them. Perhaps that slightly underwhelming colour selection of only 3 models hasn't really helped. There's no poster boy. This red should be the poster boy, but you know, it's a pretty flat, underwhelming colour. Even flatter, it's almost a kind of brown tone from the dial, slightly warmer tones from the bezel insert. I'm not really sure I like what they've done with the hands and the indices. That hour hand looks like a kind of plasterer's palette rather than a sword. I think they've lost a little bit of the aggression there. Maybe they tried to add it back in by sharpening up the indices, but I'm not really sure that it worked. Angled silver chapter ring rather shrinks the dial size as well. Maybe they would have been better making that dial slightly bigger, giving it a bit more impact that way. Yeah. Alright, maybe I need a yellow one or a bit more in your face from future models to really kind of float my boat, but as it is, yeah, perhaps slightly underwhelming release from Seiko. In some ways they can't win. If they just relaunched the Samurai but smaller, I would have taken the mickey out of them for that. They've done something a little bit different here, and I still find excuses to take the mickey out of them regardless. So there you have it. This one perhaps a little bit underwhelming, especially when you consider the new inflated RRP. If you want a small Seiko, like I said, check out my review of the Mini Turtle. It's awesome. Or go for the King Samurai if you've got the wrist for it. It's got sapphire crystal and it's probably going to set you back less money than this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next one.